The opening scene introduces the driver, a highly skilled getaway driver who also earns his living as a stuntman and mechanic. Shannon, the owner of the auto shop, manages all of the driver's work. Shannon works for Bernie and Nino, who are Jewish-American mobsters. One day when the driver goes to the supermarket, he sees that his neighbor Irene's car has broken down. He helps her. Irene lives with her little son Benicio, who is very naughty. In her house, the driver sees a picture of Irene's husband Gabriel and asks her where he is. She tells him that he is in jail. The driver spends a lot of time with Irene and Benicio, and the driver and Irene start to like each other. Irene tells the driver that her husband will be released from prison within a week. The driver becomes sad upon hearing this because he has started to like Irene. Gabriel is released from jail, goes to his home, and meets Irene and Benicio. After a short while, he also meets the driver and thanks him for taking care of his family. The next day, the driver finds Gabriel injured, and with him is Benicio, who is very scared. The driver asks Gabriel who they were and why they beat him. Gabriel tells the driver, "I borrowed money from an Albanian gangster named Chris. Now he's telling me to rob a pawn shop in exchange for the money, but I don't want to do it." Gabriel also tells the driver, "Chris threatened me that if I don't rob the pawn shop, he will kill my wife and child." The driver decides to help Gabriel to save Irene and Benicio. The driver and Gabriel meet with Chris. The driver tells Chris, "Once you get the money, leave Gabriel alone. He's free, and don't go near his family." Chris also sends his accomplice, Blanche, with them to rob the pawn shop. The driver stops the car near the pawn shop. Gabriel and Blanche go inside to rob it. Within minutes, Blanche comes out and gets into the car with a bag of money. At the same time, Gabriel also comes out of the pawn shop, but he has been shot in the neck. Just then, the pawn shop owner comes from behind and shoots Gabriel. The driver starts the car and tries to get away quickly. One car follows his car, but the driver manages to lose it. Then, he and Blanche hide out in a motel. The driver watches the news on television about the robbery of that pawn shop. The reporter says that the pawn shop owner claims the robber was alone and that nothing is stolen from the shop. The driver says to Blanche, "The shop owner saw you taking the money, so why didn't he say anything?" Blanche replies, "I don't know anything." The driver puts on his gloves, closes the door, slaps Blanche and says, "If you don't tell me everything, I will kill you." Blanche tells the driver that Chris had told her that there would be another car to keep an eye on them. The driver asks Blanche if he was going to kill him and Gabriel as well, and she says yes. Meanwhile, Chris's henchmen attack the driver, but the driver kills them all. The driver comes to Shannon and tells him everything. Shannon says to the driver, "Don't worry, I'll ask Bernie about Chris. He might know him." The driver finds Chris and beats him severely and asks him who hired him to steal the money from the pawn shop. Chris tells him that Nino hired him to steal the money from that pawn shop. The driver tells Chris to call Nino. The driver talks to Nino and tells him, "Your money is with me. I'll tell you the place and time. You come there to get your money." Nino asks him why he is doing this, to which he replies, "I just want to get out of all this." The driver meets Irene and tells her everything, even offering her all the money, but Irene slaps him. Then they enter an elevator. There is already a man inside the elevator. The driver sees a gun in the man's pocket and realizes he's there to kill him, so he attacks him and kills him. Then, the driver confronts Shannon, who reveals that he called Bernie about the money and unwittingly mentioned Irene. Furious, the driver tells Shannon to flee, as Nino will surely hunt them both. Bernie is very angry with Nino because he stole money from the East Coast mob without asking him. Bernie tells Nino if anyone finds out that you did this theft, we are finished. Nino tells Bernie that Shannon and the driver will have to die. They can involve me in this robbery. Bernie meets Shannon, who was preparing to flee from there. Bernie asks him where the driver is, "Tell me," but he doesn't tell him anything about the driver, so he cuts off his arm with a razor. When the driver arrives at Shannon's auto shop, he finds Shannon dead there. The driver puts on a mask and follows Nino and kills him. Then he calls Bernie. Bernie tells him, "Let's meet at the restaurant tomorrow." Later, the driver calls Irene and tells her, "I'm leaving from here. I may never return." Bernie meets the driver at the restaurant. Bernie tells him, "Give me the money, and I promise nothing will happen to the girl, but I can't say anything about your safety." The driver tells him that the money is in the car, and they both come out of the restaurant. The driver takes out the money bag from the car's trunk. Just then, Bernie stabs him in the stomach. The driver also takes out his knife, stabs him in the chest, and kills him. Then he takes the car and drives away from there, and the movie ends here.